Hello friends, welcome back. I've talked a lot in previous videos about how excited I am to start some renovations and some DIY projects around the house. So here we go. We are starting with a kitchen refresh today. If you saw one of our previous home DIYs from a couple months ago when we redid our kitchen island from a Facebook Marketplace flipped dresser, basically, we redid the dresser and then we put on this countertop. However, we never ended up getting any stools or chairs or anything for it. We had a bench from the table that we had in here previously, and it obviously was not at counter height. It was just normal table height. So the bench did not work, and I really wanted to get rid of it because of where the placement of the legs were. People were constantly falling. The bench would always tip over, not with my little boys who always sat at the table, but adults, basically any kind of adults that would sit on it in the wrong way, the bench would tip over. And like I said, when we redid this island, we brought it up to counter height and it wasn't at table height anymore, which was the bench. So we started looking for stools and we just never could decide on them. And we went back and forth several times. So it took us several months to actually come back to that and get stools. So I got them in today and it came with a bunch of other packages. So that's what I'm going through. I am unboxing all these packages that we got, and it ended up being like everything for my two younger boys. My two older kids, they ended up getting like little gift cards and for Amazon, so they're really excited about that. And then my boys, they got this arts and crafts little kit. I mean, it's not little, it's giant, and there's like 250 projects in there. It was pretty massive, honestly. They even call it a warehouse, a arts and crafts warehouse. So before we get to unboxing the stools and putting them together, I am just going through the other packages that we got and showing the boys and letting them kind of go wild with them, kind of getting it out of the way so then I can get to what I'm most excited for, the stools. This was the last box we had come in, and it was another gift for the boys. It was a electric marble run, I think is what it's called. They have a marble run, but it doesn't have like a motor or anything in it. So they're actually really excited about this one. And I believe it works with the one they have, so they could basically do a giant marble run in their room. So that was the last thing that they had to open, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm just opening that and showing them what they got, so they can, like I said, go crazy with that. Okay, so now we are getting to the stools, and if you can see in the right side of the screen under the window, that's actually the bench that was under the table. I plan on kind of redoing it, I think, because I moved it out here wondering if it would even go there, and I ended up really liking it. So I moved the chair that was there, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that now, but I just put it aside for now, and I moved the bench under this window. I really like it. It kind of adds like a little shelf, but I think I am going to go ahead and like sand it down eventually and maybe restain it or something like that. But I thought I was in camera view there. I was trying to show you the picture on the box, but I was not. So when we were picking out these bar stools, I originally wanted backs on them, and I wanted them kind of a rattan style or cane, um, which they do have cane on them. but I was going for a much different style when I first started looking for these stools. And my husband, he had more of an opinion than I expected him to have. Eventually, or at first, he was just like, do whatever, get whatever. But then, I don't know, he started thinking about it, I guess. And I thought it was the most funny conversation. He was sitting there one night while we were looking at these online, and he was like, I don't want there to be backs on the back of the stools, because if I'm eating chips and salsa, I don't want to have to reach over the backs of these stools to get it. I want an unobstructed view of my chips and salsa. And I died laughing. I thought that was the funniest reason to have an opinion about a stool. But ultimately, that is why we chose to not put backs on the stools. That way they can slide right under the island and kind of be out of the way when we're not using them. And then that way they also did not have backs on them. So if people wanted just to stand at the island, which a lot of people do when we have parties and stuff, they'll just stand at the island, and kind of that's where we'll put the food, like the snacks and hors d'oeuvres, all that kind of stuff. So he liked how there wouldn't be backs to kind of obstruct people from doing that, which did make sense. Here's Kat, our project manager. She doesn't look like a kitten anymore. It's crazy. We got her over the summer. She was really, really skinny and not doing very good health wise. So we ended up taking her in, and I can't believe she is so big now, but she's our project manager. She is always around to sit in the boxes and make sure we are doing all of our projects correctly. So when I got these out of the box, all the pieces for the stools, I was thinking to myself, oh, there's barely any pieces. This will be great. This will be quick and easy. And that was so wrong. So the tools that they give you, it was actually not bad. I don't even know what they're called usually, like some wrench or something. I don't know. I am not that person, so I apologize. But the little L-shaped thing that they usually give you. So it was like that, but it had like a handle on it, which was pretty nice. And I don't know, it was not as easy as I was expecting it to be, and they just weren't going in properly. So by this point, I had done one, and then I called my husband, and he's like, oh, just wait until I get home. He was getting off of work, and he's like, I'll just finish those up while you're doing dinner and stuff like that. I will put together the rest of the stools. And it was just kind of funny because I'm like, okay, thinking to myself, I was kind of struggling, but he does this kind of stuff for a living. So I'm like, oh, he'll be good at it. And I think he also thought that too. So that's kind of why he volunteered to do it. But as soon as he got home and started working on them, he, I think, quickly changed his mind and was kind of regretting volunteering to do the rest of them. There you go. We have one. 3 more to go. So I ended up cutting out quite a bit of the clips because he was getting so frustrated at this. He ended up even bringing up his own tools, and he broke a couple pieces, I think. I think he ended up fixing it. I don't know. I tried staying out of it, which is why I don't have all the details for you. But yeah, so something with the screws, there are, pre-drilled holes in them, but for some reason the screws were not going in them well. So it was not just me, and I was kind of not excited, but I was kind of happy that it wasn't just me that was struggling with this, because he does construction and building stuff for a living, and he was even like, oh my gosh, these are terrible. We loved them as soon as they were done, and the overall look, and they're very sturdy. but man, they were really hard to put together. He even struggled. And so I think he went in and pre-drilled a couple extra holes, or maybe did them differently or something. But yeah, it was the whole time. And it wasn't just like, oh, once you get the hang of things, it becomes easier. It was not, unfortunately. Every single one was pretty difficult. And there was even, he ended up having to completely undo one of the stools because on the very last step of putting it together, I think, is when it broke. So then he had to undo it and redo it kind of his own way, not according to directions. So if I have the link for these, I will link them below. Like I said, they are really, really good. They're very sturdy and they're really nice looking. They're great quality, but putting them together was not easy whatsoever. And then we did buy fabric to make like little cushions for these chairs. I wanted the option of having that on sometimes, probably not always, but having them on sometimes. And so I was also going off of like this inspirational picture that I saw. So my husband ended up finding John Wayne fabric at this huge fabric warehouse we went to, and it was really cool. It is like a gray blue color, and then I found kind of a terracotta red color to go on the other side of it. So I ended up making the cushions, and you'll see that here soon, but that was kind of part of the inspiration of picking out these particular stools, because I was going off of a picture, and then also my husband had an opinion on them. So these ended up working out perfectly after we got them put together. As we were putting together all of the stuff for our kitchen this weekend, we were also discussing kind of long-term projects that we're also wanting to work on. I have wanted to get new countertops since we moved in, and it was just a project that we kept putting off because other projects came before it. So that is one of our goals for this spring, is to get new countertops. We don't have any backsplash, so I'm hoping that we can also do that. And then kind of what sparked the whole conversation was we're starting to think that our fridge is a part's going out on it, and we kind of need to replace it anyway. It's a really old fridge. I think the previous owners that we bought the house from, I think it was used when they got it. So it is older and it is past its time. So I think we're going to get a new fridge. However, that kind of sparked it. And my husband, who works on kitchens and stuff for a living, he was talking about expanding the cabinets in the kitchen and moving the fridge just beyond that walkway over by the fridge that goes into our pantry. So he's thinking maybe putting the fridge in the pantry and expanding the cabinets and counter space to the wall over there instead in the kitchen. So it's been a lot of things that we are talking about, projects and stuff that we're planning on working on. So that is why I did part 1 of this home refresh, or the kitchen refresh, because we have plenty of other projects that we are planning to do in the kitchen. This is kind of just the very beginning of it. When we first moved into this house, I was trying to decorate and buy furniture and all that stuff kind of off of whatever styles were in at that time that I liked. There was a couple different ones that when we moved in, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy everything to match this style for the house. And I think I'm just not that person. I think I'm just more of an eclectic type of style. This is how the stools turned out. I think they're so beautiful with the island, the colors, and I don't know, it was exactly what I was hoping they would be. But anyway, I think the whole sense of style that I have just accepted in the last year or so is just more eclectic, and I'm not trying to stick to one particular style. I am just doing whatever makes me happy. And so that's kind of why I'm telling you this, because I like quirkier things and kind of mixed with, simplicity, but also maximal. I don't know. I'm a little bit of everything. And so when we were finishing the rest of the kitchen, we wanted to make an accent wall that wasn't really an accent wall. I don't really know how to explain it more than that, but I didn't want it to scream at you. I wanted it to be very subtle. And I'm wanting to switch from the gray color walls that we have to more of like a beige-ish. I don't know. So I ended up getting a new color paint and I absolutely love it. I think it's so beautiful and it's really not far off from the gray. It just has less gray tones. So we are going to be painting in just a minute. I am finishing up these are the curtains that I tea dyed from a sheet that I got at a thrift store, and I wanted to change the length just a little bit. They go in our pantry to kind of cover some of the bottom shelves and like the garbage can and stuff like that. So I am adjusting the height on these and then I'll hang them back up. But to go with more of my quirkier style, and honestly, it turns out my husband is exactly the same way. He loves the quirkiness of things too. So to kind of go with that, we painted the wall and then we did kind of a different approach to like stenciling it. We didn't want to mess with wallpaper. So we bought stencils and at first I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I like it. And then we added other elements that I was like giddy about. I was so excited once we started pulling everything together. So this was the gray walls that there's nothing wrong with them. It's just I was kind of over the gray at this point. These were what was painted when we moved in, and this is the gray that is all over our house. So it kind of also needs updated. We have a million kids, so we have like little nicks in places and it's just needs more of a refresh. So this is the color that we chose. And honestly, I felt like it looked a little lighter on camera in that can. It's not too far off from the gray. It just kind of loses those gray tones, and that was what I was hopeful for. It's kind of an oatmeal color, I would say. And I think we're going to end up probably just painting all of the house. Because like I said, I mean, it's been like 4 years and I don't know when they painted, but it just, after a while, you need to refresh your paint, I feel like. So, especially when you have kids that are throwing balls and all kinds of things at your walls, they kind of take a hit, and ours have. So it definitely needed some new paint. If you have been a friend for a while on my channel and have been through any DIYs with us, you will know that I hate painting walls. I don't know what it is, but I think I would rather do a million other things. I think I would rather do laundry or mop or really anything other than paint. I don't know what my problem is, but I hate painting. So my husband does not mind, and he will always volunteer to paint. And this was one wall that we were doing. We wanted to see how well it would go before we did any other walls. And so we're just doing this one wall. Like I said, it's kind of an accent wall. We're hoping that it, doesn't really pop too much. And then once we get backsplash and everything up, we will then paint probably this color to match on the other walls too. But anyway, so he volunteered to do that. And in the meantime, I was working on this. So I don't know if you have seen these god-awful plates. What are the switch covers? They are everywhere. And the previous owners took duct tape and put them on just, the cheap normal covers. And I hated it. I hate it more than the normal covers. And I think I'm blind to them at this point. And so I've just gotten used to them and I just forget that they're there. However, we took these off of the wall to paint, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do something about it. I was looking on Amazon and a couple other places, and I want gold covers, but they're like $13 a pop, and I have a million light switches. There's no way, and that's the price for like normal ones. So it's a little out of my price range at this point. I'm gonna keep looking. Eventually I'll find something. I actually saw a DIY just this morning, and I might try that actually on these plain ones. But I didn't have it calls for rub and buff, and I don't have any on me at the moment. So I'm doing what I usually do for like ones that I get at the thrift store. Whenever I get rub and buff, I'm going to try that though, and I'll show you how that goes. But in the meantime, I am going to just take normal paint. This is black paint. I'm going to paint it on really thick. And I did wash these and everything. I'm not sure how they will hold up because I have never done this before. So I will keep you updated on it. But I painted them really thick, like black on top. And I did a couple coats to make sure that I would wait for it to dry, and then I would paint another coat. When you're doing this, you have to make sure it is completely dry. Otherwise, because of its shiny plastic, it will just kind of come right off. It will rub off if it's not dry. So I painted a really thick black coat on, and then I let it dry completely, and I painted, it was one or two more coats of black. And then I painted 2 coats of a brushed gold on top. So like I said, it was all that I had on hand at the moment, and I'm going to try another way once I get some rub and buff. But for the time being, it was the perfect fix for these, what I thought were absolutely hideous. I could not even take them a second longer. So I am going to cover these in gold, and they looked so much better with the colors on the wall. And the reason, if you're wondering why I'm painting them black first, is it kind of gives that antique look to it. My grandmother, she used to paint for years and years and years, and she would do all those like traveling craft shows and stuff, and she did ceramics, and a lot of the time they would dip the ceramics before they would paint them in a bucket of black paint, and then they would let it dry, and then they would paint it. Well, it made it look really antique-ish, and more of a brushed effect. So whenever I'm painting stuff that I find at antique stores or anything like that, when I want it gold, I always paint it black, like my grandmother did, to make it have that brushed gold look and to look more vintage. So now I'm going in with the gold after I did a couple of coats of the black. And you almost can't even tell that it's gold right off the start because I was trying to brush it. And then I'm like, you know what? I need more gold on my brush. So I went in a lot heavier with it, and you can kind of tell. You need a couple coats though to really get that effect that you're looking for of the gold. So that's what I'm doing here, and it slowly comes together, but it does come together really nicely. And it was so much better. Like I said, I've never done this before, so I'm not sure how it's going to hold up. I did end up doing an old like art school trick where you spray it with like hairspray to set. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have taken art classes, and I saw this on the internet like one whole time. So we'll see. I'm like practically an expert if you had to ask me. But also, if these don't turn out and they don't hold up, they're really, really cheap covers. So I'll just replace them. But I'm hoping that once I get rub and buff, that will be what I'm really looking for. I'm really excited about that. And hopefully then I can just switch out all of them in my house because they're all those, either they're the plain beige ones we have in the house, or they're that god-awful duct tape version of the plain ones. There's no in between. We don't have any. We might have some fancier ones in my bedroom. I think they're like the steel plated ones, or I don't even know, but they're like heavy duty, like decorative ones, which probably came with the house. However, I think they're only in my room, maybe a couple places that I'm unaware of, but for the majority, we have these, just the normal beige colored ones, or the ones that are covered in duct tape, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that this trick works, or if not, the rub and buff one does. If you happen to know about the rub and buff one, like, have you tried it? I would love to hear from you. Like, does it hold up over time? Does it crack and chip? This is how the ones that I did turned out. Just like I said, it was pretty much what I was looking for. I wanted that gold, and I thought it went really well with the colors on the wall. So, but I am really wanting to try the rub and buff, so then it doesn't have that like brushed look on it. We'll see, but if you have tried that, please let me know below. So now I am moving on to doing the cushions for the stools. I mentioned how we like quirkier stuff, so this was a John Wayne fabric that we randomly came across in a big fabric warehouse, and it was pretty cool. And then we found kind of a rust or terracotta color to go on the other side too. So I'm making these little cushions, and I'm kind of going off of a picture that I had seen for inspiration. They didn't have this color, they were green in the picture, but I just loved how they looked on the stools. So that is what I'm going for here, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. Here are the finished cushions. This is more of the terracotta color or rust color, whatever you want to call it. And then this is the John Wayne. It is like a dark blue grayish color, and it has cowboys on it and rattlesnakes and cactuses. I thought it was just the cutest thing. And then these are the stencils. We found these at Hobby Lobby. Now, I was going for this floral kind of look. I'm not sure what you even call this. It's kind of like a scroll and floral thing. So I wanted it, and I wanted a certain size. This size was really good, and we just did like a chalk white, and like an antique chalk white. Again, I wanted it more subtle and not to kind of pop out. So that's why we did this color. And when I was doing this, so we kind of followed a pattern for the most part all across this entire wall. When I did it, I originally was like, I don't know if I love it. And I wondered if after I sat on it for a little while, if I would end up actually just painting over it. I like to do that when I initially do a project. Regardless, unless I absolutely just hate it at first, I like to sit on a project before I make any changes, because just kind of living with it and figuring out what I want to do. I don't like to act fast on it. So when I first did this scroll and floral thing, I did a pattern all on this wall, and I was like, I don't think I actually really love it. I wasn't sure about it. However, I bought the mushroom stencils on a whim, and I went ahead and I just painted a couple mushrooms. And I did not do a pattern. like I did the floral. And it was like a whimsical effect. I absolutely loved it. Like I was giddy about the mushrooms. I loved how they were just kind of sporadically placed within all these. So I am actually, it's funny because I'm doing the floral pieces now. And like I said, I did them in a pattern. My husband, he offered to do one because I wasn't sure if I could really reach these ones near the ceiling. And so he was like, oh, I'll do the ones up there. He did one of them. And then he was like, nope, I'm not good at this. I can't do this. You're going to have to do all of them. So which his was not bad. So I don't know what he was all worked up about. But yeah, it was kind of funny because he was like, he kept volunteering to do these, especially the ones near the ceiling where I could barely reach. He can reach without, a step stool or anything. He's 6 foot and I'm barely over 5. So it made sense for him to do the ones near the ceiling, but no, he did one. And then he was like, I am no good at this. You're going to have to do all of them. So I did all of them and it wasn't difficult. I kind of thought maybe it would be more difficult working with a stencil, but it's really not. So I just put a little piece of tape across the top and a little piece across the bottom, and I used a sponge brush. And you really don't need very much paint at all. I got, it was like a sample jar that they sell. And I barely used that. I don't even think I used half. The stencils we ended up getting from Hobby Lobby, they were about $2 a piece. Kind of depends which ones you got. They had really big ones, they had little ones, but they were between $1.50 and I don't know, $5 a piece. Ours, I think, were each like $2. So my daughter, I did a couple of mushrooms and then she really got into it. She came in the kitchen and she was like, oh, I want to paint some. So she ended up doing the rest of them. And like I said, she just did sporadically place them and they turned out really, really cute. So it turned out to be more of a whimsical look. And I just love how it turned out. It's quirky. It's cute and I like it. So, and it doesn't scream at you. So this is the finished product. Like I said, we have a ton of other kitchen makeovers and all kinds of things around our house that we are wanting to work on this spring. But this was kitchen refresh number 1, and it was on a very small budget, but I think it really turned out really well. But anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.